close attention to the Twitch bot apocalypse. I've kept my...
To give you an idea of how bad this has affected Twitch, Twitch has lost 24% of its viewership now that they've cracked down on botting. 24% of all viewership on Twitch is gone because it was all bots.
Finger on the pulse of it. I find it to be a really interesting topic here. For those that don't know, a few days ago, Twitch made good on their promise where they swore they would be making bot detection and eradication a priority. They finally called attention to a issue that has plagued Twitch since the beginning. Since the genesis of Twitch, in the primordial soup of streaming, there has been bots that have infected the platform. And for the longest time, Twitch had gone really hands-off.
So, to give you an idea, I'm going to try and make this as fast as possible. So, if you're a small streamer, it's really hard to get viewers because all the viewership and the front page is reserved for people with the highest viewership, namely people who have the money to just buy a whole bunch of bots. Now, a lot of small streamers use bots to move up in the ranks. A lot of smaller streamers that are now big probably did about the same thing. Funny enough, a lot of the big streamers usually are like, well, maybe you should try it, but they don't really want to directly say it. But in their best intentions, they're like, you should bot. And even Shroud has said you should try botting, but that doesn't mean you should. And the reason for that is because it screws over the people that give the ads to the content creators because they're getting ripped off. It makes advertisers leave the platform, and it makes it even harder for people who are starting up to get in a place where they're comfortable and they can live comfortably without needing bots. You're not ruining it for yourself, you're ruining it for everybody else. Not only that, but you can buy bots for streamers that you watch. So I think that's the good rundown. Let's keep going.
They said, you know what, if we don't put our hands on the stove, we won't know if it's hot. But recently they said that they were going to actually be directly attacking this bot issue. And a few days ago, they rolled out their first targeted strike here on bots.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think the only reason why Twitch is doing this is because they know their goose is cooked. People have been giving them their concerns about a lot of problems for a long time. And with all these big streamers going to other platforms now and multi-streaming, and them rolling out all these stupid little rules that you can't endorse your other channels and stuff. I think that this is a long time coming, and I hope that they continue to knock these bots off the platform.
And boy howdy, it was a doozy. Apparently, the overall viewership on Twitch went down as much as 24% compared to last week, with many big streamers suddenly losing thousands of viewers. Not just big streamers, streamers of all shapes and sizes lost tons and tons of viewers, like across the board. It was a pretty big purge of invalid traffic, bot activity. As I said a couple days ago, I was pretty surprised with how hard they hit the ground running here. I thought it would just be like lightly poking the bear, like, oh, we got rid of like 100 bots. Big W, Twitch is saved. But no, they kind of like, they dropped a bomb here. It was a pretty big deal. So big, in fact, that a lot of streamers, many suspected of being a view botter, had just decided not to stream for like the last week or so, inexplicably.
I ain't gonna lie. I don't know if it, because like Kai Sanat, for example, he usually has like almost over 100 and something thousand viewers every time he goes live, right? I think it's because of the recent drama with him and Jinxie, but he hasn't been live. And I'm so curious, because I'm following him. Whenever he goes live, I want to see how many people who actually watch him. Now that the view botting stuff is like, it's come through.
Just randomly deciding not to stream during the bot purge, which of course has everyone raising an eyebrow, and of course all of this has led to a lot of finger pointing, a lot of shit stirring, a lot of spitting, a lot of farting and coming. It's been kind of pandemonium in the streaming space as people are noticing view counts have been dropped from a lot of streamers, and in some cases drastically. So the natural conclusion people are drawing is they were view botting. And as I predicted, and as everyone predicted, nobody wants to own up to being privy to their channel being view botted because that's against the rules. They would get banned. No one's ever going to admit to it. So it's been a lot of cope and a lot of excuses. Like, oh, it must have just been this stranger over here that's been doing this and I had no fucking clue. I'm glad that it's getting solved. Everyone is talking about this as a positive thing. Meanwhile, in the background, there are people that no doubt are shaking their fist in anger in demanding that their botting service get it under control and fix it because they need those viewer numbers to go back to where they were. Because obviously, if it doesn't,
because on Twitch you get paid based on views. Because they run ads whenever you are just streaming like normal, like what YouTube does. They just run ads, right? They run a lot of ads, so you can make a lot of money. And then that's not even including the bits, that's not including the actual, like, the subs, like, you can make a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made if there are real people.
Are going to be aware there was some fraudulent activity there, and the only question remains, did the streamer know? Like, were they guilty of paying for the service themselves? Or was it like an org they were affiliated with? Because according to a lot of the data, which
orgs are like Mythic Talent, OTC. I think it's OTC. That they're like a group that helps out with viewership whenever you join them. And what happens is they do help you with viewership. But ever since the bots have been kicking in, the bot annihilation has kicked in. A lot of orgs have been belly up, as it were. So,
which is public, by the way. You can see all of the viewer numbers post and pre-purge.
That's the reason why this has gotten so big, is because you can see every channel. You can see every channel's viewer count. Every one of them.
All of this is public, so you can see a lot of streamers that are affiliated with an org, like OTK is the big one everyone's talked about. But not just OTK, there were other orgs coming under fire as well, namely FaZe was another one that people had a lot of question marks over their head with, because a lot of the streamers affiliated with FaZe also took huge drastic drops in their viewership during this purge. So the speculation is that these orgs are...
allegedly, based on what Asmon said, FaZe has been known behind the scenes for viewbotting quite a bit. I ain't trying to throw no shade. I ain't trying to do no dramas or nothing. But that's what the hearsay she said thing says, okay?
Boosting the numbers of some of the streamers under their umbrella, because by having more successful streamers under their brand, it's good for the brand. Yeah. Obviously, the motivation is to make more money because you can...
And the way an org works is a lot like how Fajojo works, is like if you're under their brand, they take a cut of your money, your income, and then they pay out the rest. I think that these things are terrible, and there's no way that a lot of these orgs don't viewbot. I mean, let's be honest here.
Significantly more doubloons if the streamers that are under your blanket are more popular. So if you boost your streamers by thousands upon thousands of viewers that they don't legitimately have, you can still bring those numbers to brands that would be none the wiser in the partnership.
Yep.
And according to some other streamers, there's been actually quite a bit of talk from streamers about orgs even like softly admitting to doing this in certain cases. I don't know like all the particulars around that, but there has been like a lot of discussion that orgs do actually do this. Like it's not.
Well, I mean, like a lot of advertisers do it as well. So it's not just orgs. Advertisers, like if you take certain advertisers that are there to advertise your stream, they'll actually viewbot your numbers.
The full-blown conspiracy theory, but then the question becomes, well, do the streamers under these orgs know about that? Like, there's just a lot of questions.
I highly doubt the majority of them know. That you'd be surprised at how many people know as opposed to don't know. I'm willing to bet money on it that there's a good chance the solid majority of them know they're being viewbotted and are okay with it because they're getting paid. That doesn't make it right, but I mean, if you're getting paid to do a thing and you like doing that thing, then you might as well just shut up and do the thing, right? I mean, that's what any human being would do.
After all of this bot detection and all this bot purging, it's been a flood of questions like Yahoo Answers just got revived. Did the streamers viewbot themselves? Was it a member of their community viewbotting the streamer? Did the streamer, are they a victim of like a stranger, a malicious bad actor trying to artificially boost their numbers to potentially ruin their reputation? Is there a super fan of this?
I can't tell you how many people I've had whisper to me in my like little whispers at Twitch, that are like people that like clicked onto the stream to try and make some kind of weird like Ponzi scheme where they click onto your stream and then they get down in your chat and they're like, do you have an organizer that can help you get more views if you pay me a certain amount? And I'm just like, nah, bruh. That's not how this works. No.
Streamer that's trying to boost their favorite streamer to make them more popular because they just love them so much. Does the streamer know that the org they're affiliated with might be boosting their numbers? Just so many questions. And another big discussion that's come from all of this is about sponsors. Allegedly, some sponsors have been botting sponsored streams in order to make it seem more popular to the average viewer. Yep. So they'll artificially boost those numbers so it seems like
keep more in mind, the more... So, like, if you have, let's say, for example, I'm on the just chatting category right now on Twitch. So, if I have the most viewers, I'm automatically at the top of just chatting. Automatically.
Hype around the product, and they've also been accused of botting even beyond sponsored streams because by being partnered with that streamer, it's better for their brand if that streamer is perceived as more popular. So they'll boost them even beyond the sponsored stream just so that way they can use it as marketing material like, hey, look, we're partnered with this big guy. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, a lot of the viewership is botted by the sponsor, allegedly. But I also want to mention that...
Well, you have to keep in mind is that whenever the streamer gets paid, it goes directly to the org or whoever is sponsoring. And then they take a portion of that. They probably take, like, for example, 20% of it. And then they put that 20% and they half it. So they'll put 10% of that in bots, and then the other 10% they'll pocket. And then they'll give the rest to the streamer.
In only 2 days here, it seems that there are some botting services that have already found ways of circumventing these bans. There are some streamers that have miraculously bounced back after a 3-day plummet to not only where they were, but in some cases even higher, despite nothing changing in their content and doing nothing different. So it does look like in certain cases, some bots have found a way to evade this. So I'm hoping this isn't Twitch's only
The best thing Twitch can do to keep combating this bot problem is keep growing and evolving to hit this bots however many times they keep popping, honestly. I noticed that with Asmon's stream yesterday, he was back up into the 44,000s, even though, like, right when the bots hit, he was down to 30. So, like...
action here against bots because, as I mentioned, it's going to be an ongoing tug of war. And it is good for the entire platform to do your best to stop bot activity. Fake, phony, baloney numbers are bad for all of the streamers on the platform, except for, of course, the ones that are paying to win in the streaming space. Which is another thing. There is a very real possibility, and something that has been talked about by some of the biggest streamers, that a strategy that used to be used and is probably still employed to a certain degree is some streamers would bot their streams for a while to try and grow an organic viewer base, and then they would completely stop paying for the botting service and just let the organic numbers start to take over as more people assimilate into the community. So, of course, this is never going to detect that strategy, but even still, Twitch needs to do everything it can to stop bots because it is very bad for everyone on the platform to just let this rampant issue continue and spiral out of control. Now, I think I need to explain why I have this perspective and so many people have this perspective because I've seen a lot of people downplaying this as like not a big deal, like this is a fucking nothing burger. Who cares about view counts? If you can pay for it, you should do it. It gives you the advantage.
It matters because the discoverability on Twitch is already terrible. Like, the discoverability on Twitch is a joke. It is. It's an absolute joke. Like, for example, I have grown on YouTube and I've gotten monetized in these past year or so that I've been streaming. I have not moved from 59 followers on Twitch. Even after I flopped from gaming to reaction at all. It hasn't fucking moved. Every day that I go live on Twitch, I've got one viewer, and I'm fairly certain that's the Twitch thing. Everyone, whenever you go live on Twitch, usually you'll have one viewer. It's the weirdest fucking thing. I don't know what it is, but it's always one viewer. And it doesn't change. I've had a few people come in and out, but overall, nothing's changed. unless you're really high up with numbers, you're not going to get discovered. I've accepted that. I don't really care. I like using Twitch as a way to clip out my videos so I can render them and upload them, and I like using the clip feature that it has to upload to Instagram, TikTok, X. By the way, I do that every day. So whenever I get off stream, I have to go to Twitch, publish the stream. Then what I do is I go in and I usually clip out 4 clips. I upload all 4 of them to YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. TikTok been going the fuck off, dude. Like, I don't know what's going on with TikTok. TikTok been blowing up. And then I download the entire stream. I drop that bitch into Sony Vegas Pro, and then I split out every single video, and I do this every day, Monday through Friday, except for the weekend. Then I record individual reaction content. I don't usually get done with this until about like 6. I think I got done at like 7 yesterday because the videos were kind of long. But like, the discoverability on Twitch is a joke. It's terrible.
Space. You got to stand out in the market. So if you can do anything to get an edge, you got to fucking do it. And yeah, you're right. It's a saturated market. So obviously buying view bots is going to immediately help you stand out by floating to the top of a category. So that way, some curious Georges will see you at the front there, and they'll click because you've got the most viewers. So obviously there's a lot of hubbub there, and they want to see what all the fuss is about. So they'll check out your stream because you have artificially inflated the numbers. And then you have now occupied that viewer, which takes it from another streamer that is legitimately streaming to an audience and a real community of people there to watch them instead of just an army of clankers. In fact, the argument kind of mirrors something from many moons ago when Twitch was still pretty new. I'm going to take you back to the past to talk about some titties and ass. There was a huge trend on Twitch for a while with something called booby streamers, if anyone remembers that, where there was a trend on Twitch where streamers would try and wear the most revealing clothing that Twitch would possibly allow.
There was one girl, I don't know if she's still the top, but she was there for a long time. She had big old honkers, and she would paint them. You couldn't see, like, the nipples, but you could see she would paint them.
In the most sexual of positions, and constantly putting cleavage as like the main hook to draw viewers in. And this drew a lot of outrage because people believed that by doing that, they were stealing viewers from their streams because they weren't showing cleavage and everything. It was a huge debate that raged on for years, actually.
Even now, there's a category called like hot tubs and pools. Even now, people are advocating for the removal of it, but it's like, the weird thing is that it's not doing as well as it used to.
And people were always split on whether or not
the reason for that is because they made it 18 and up.
The case. Was this streamer with cleavage stealing a viewer from this guy over here who was building a brazen bull in Minecraft? Well, the jury was always out. But in this case, there is clear data, clear-cut, irrefutable evidence that viewbotting your streams and fucking leapfrogging your way ahead of everyone that is legitimately streaming with less viewers than you does actually steal the viewers from them. You are directly competing in the exact same content, but you have now floated more visibly to the top through artificially inflating your numbers, fundamentally paying to win, and cheating the system. That 100% does take viewers away from the actual streamers on Twitch. Across the board. It's not a debate, and it's not like a competitive advantage. You are cheating. You are breaking the rules of the website too, by the way. Twitch just doesn't choose to enforce them very often. They have just let this go.
They can't really enforce it. Let me tell you why. They can't really enforce it unless the streamer comes forward and says they were viewbotting. And the reason for that is because you could have people that want your channel to get banned, and they're going to viewbot your channel to get you in trouble. So you can't really do that. You can't just ban somebody for something they didn't do. You can't make somebody that didn't do something guilty for something they didn't do. It's not okay.
Unchecked for an extremely long period of time. But it's not allowed. You're not supposed to be able to do that. So this, again, is not a debate. So, The problem is that shit sucks. That is bad, not only for all the streamers that are doing it legitimately, but it's also bad for the platform. I'm actually kind of surprised Twitch doesn't face more hot water for their handling of bots for this long, because while...
You know why Twitch doesn't face more hot water? Because they don't answer to anybody other than Amazon. That's why. And Amazon's never going to put their foot down on Twitch. So they're going to do what they want, however they want, whenever they want. And if you don't like it, then their motto is go find another platform, because they're just going to ban you. And I understand that. Hey man, when you own something and you know you own it, you might as well lock that bitch down. You can't hate the game. You can't hate the player, hate the game.
Twitch on their back end can identify fraudulent traffic and adjust your ad revenue for it. That is something they've talked about before, how like if you viewbot a stream up to 2 million viewers instantaneously and then just start farming ads, Twitch will go and analyze that traffic to see if it's real, and they will adjust your earnings on it. I've seen them talk about that. While Twitch can do that on their back end and not lose their ass on that, you know who can't? Brands that work with streamers. The way a brand partnership...
What's crazy is that the brands still pay Twitch. So even if Twitch goes behind and cleans up those 2 million views and gives them their like $1 for their one viewer that stayed the entire time, the brand still pays Twitch.
Works when it comes to streamers is they base your pay on your metrics. And the metrics that you provide, well, that's not going to account for bots.
Nope.
They can only go off the information that is accessible. And they don't have that back-end ability that Twitch has to go in there and see, well, who's a real viewer versus a fake one? Like, how many bots are here? They only have your metrics. So that's your average viewers, which could easily be hyperinflated because of bots. So what streamers can easily do, and definitely have done, is they boost all of their numbers to really high levels that they really are not achieving organically. It's not real viewers. It is all fraudulent, invalid traffic from botting service.
So you have to keep in mind that Twitch hasn't accrued any new viewership. They haven't gotten any newer people. They just lost 24% of their viewership. You need to keep this in mind. 24% of their viewership is just gone now because it was all bots. They haven't gotten any new people because, I'm not trying to sound like a dick, Twitch stinks. They bombard you with ads constantly. And most of their advertiser has left because they keep treating their big-time streamers like shit. No new people are joining Twitch. They're going to Kick or YouTube now. That's why it's hard to believe that your numbers are being inflated. If you know what I'm saying, like, it's hard to believe that your viewership is real, that they're not inflated.
They will inflate their viewer numbers, then brands will approach them, or they will approach brands about doing a partnership or a sponsored stream, and they'll provide those viewer numbers, which will have the brand then give them higher pay than what they should be receiving. And the brand...
Because you have to keep in mind, here for a while now, a lot of the content creators on Twitch, they've gotten most of their money from, like, they've gotten most of their money from ads, like branded content. So like you run an ad and you're sponsored. That's how they get a lot of their money, because Twitch isn't paying like that anymore. A lot of the ads have left the platform. They're only going to the individual content creators now.
Pay this money under the impression that it's being served to X amount of viewers. And those viewers, they're assuming, are real, legitimate human beings with a pulse. But in reality, a lot of times, it's being served to bots. Aren't even there, aren't consuming it at all. So they're paying a lot of money to be put in front of bots without their knowledge. In some cases, of course, that's not every case. As I mentioned earlier, there are some brands that have been accused of botting the sponsored stream itself in order to float more visibly to, like, Twitch in whatever category they're in. So there are definitely some brands that are more than fine with using botting services to make it seem like it's more hype and there's more interest in this sponsored stream. Like, wow, there's 20,000 viewers here to watch, you know, the poop that took a pee 2.0 just dropped. Look at all these people in here that are
poop that
watching
took a
this
pee.
sponsored stream. Meanwhile, it's the agency itself that is paying to boost those numbers.
Yeah.
So both of these things happen, where a brand will be none the wiser that what they are paying for is not getting. Their overall platform viewership dropped 24%. And that's just the first snowball in an avalanche.
I guarantee you it's going to go down even more. I promise you it will. There's no way it's not. To give you an idea, them removing these view bots from the platform actually ruined some streamers. Like they're gonna have to go out and get jobs now. Like that's how bad it is.
I imagine. That is the first wave. I feel as though Twitch might be apprehensive about this anyway. Like, if Twitch had a magic button that they could press
I guarantee you they're doing this because the advertisers are threatening them now. Because they've been, between Asmongold and Tectone, how often they've been getting, like, banned or suspended or whatever is going on there. With all these big Twitch streamers. They're just getting tired of being the only ones facing the brunt of this bullshit and this biased banning. I think because Asmon talked about doing it for a while now, about going to the advertisers, to Amazon and the advertisers that go on to Twitch and talking to them and telling them how it really is. And I wouldn't be surprised if behind the doors, behind the scenes, that's what they did. And now the advertisers are pushing, what's left of the advertisers are putting pressure on Twitch, saying that if you don't solve this problem, we're gone for good.
And it would guarantee every bot and all invalid traffic would be banned on Twitch from this point forward and could never return. It'd basically be like in K-pop Demon Hunters when they fully seal away all the demons.
This could be the death of Twitch. Like, to give you an idea of how bad this is, there's a good chance that within the next 2 years, Twitch could be filing for bankruptcy and shutting up doors. Like, this doesn't look good. They were already having trouble. They were already struggling with getting new viewership. And then with all the streamers and people going to other platforms like Kick and YouTube, especially Kick, they like the big streamers are making a killing on Kick, and they've got like a quarter or a fraction of the number of people that are on Twitch watching them. They're making like almost $30,000 a month. I think that this might be the death of Twitch.
They can't return. If Twitch could do that,
not to mention, like, no new streamers are going to Twitch because the overall, like, viewability on Twitch is just bad. Like, you can't get discovered on Twitch.
Now, I think they would be very apprehensive about it because we just saw them take one step in fighting bots, and they lost 24% of their viewer base over the last few days.
I promise you, I can almost promise you it's going to be more than that.
That's a huge drop, and if they did it even harder, that number would only climb, and I imagine they would be worried about all of their brand partners starting to jump ship, like, oh no, Twitch is...
I promise you the reason why they're doing this is because they're being pressured by the people that are bringing in the money. I promise you that's why. They wouldn't give a shit. They haven't given a shit for as long as they've been around. They're doing it because of their branded people are pressuring them to do this. They're threatening, I guarantee you, they're threatening to leave Twitch and taking even more sponsors with them if they don't fix this problem.
Dying. Look at this graph. You see how there's no more views? It's all dried up. Time to pull our ad spin from Twitch. I think they would be worried about the future of Twitch if they did that, because their viewer count numbers would be so much lower, significantly lower, that they'd probably be getting hit financially pretty hard from all of these sponsors that are paying money to be put there. And brands don't really care about, like, the nuance of what the numbers say. They only care about what the numbers indicate. So most of the brands, I imagine, would see this. And in fact, some of them are probably already worried with the 24% drop. But if it got even higher, some brands would probably see this, and they wouldn't take into account like it's all bot activity. They would see this and be like, nope, this is dangerous. This is not worth the ad spend. No. We're pulling out.
Because you have to keep in mind, these advertisers spend a lot of money on these streamers that have thousands of viewers. Like, a lot of money. We're talking a shitload of money. And another thing is that they're paying Twitch a lot of money to run these ads. They're not paying the content creator. And that's the reason why the content creators are leaving, is because they're getting a quarter of what they would be getting on other platforms from these advertisers. Because Twitch is just taking most of that money. Like, some of the people that have 30, 40,000 viewers, they're getting like, I think like $20 a month from advertisers. They used to get thousands. Thousands.
And even if they did bother to take a little bit of time looking into it, they might feel slighted by Twitch for letting this bot problem persist for so long.
Yeah.
And they were spending so much money for what ultimately amounted to a lot of invalid traffic. So I think Twitch would be really skeptical about getting rid of every bot.
I think Twitch is cooked. I honestly think they're cooked. I do. I think they're donezo. I think they're cooked.